Hey BimmerTech crew, Chazarelli here again with another video. Every once in a while I get a chance to work on a car that I just love to put my hands on, and today is one of those days. Check it out. Hello BimmerTech crew, once again my name is Chaz, and in today's video you're going to learn how to install BimmerTech's wireless CarPlay MMI Prime. Moving right along, when you open the box you're greeted by the MMI Prime interface itself. Here's the plug and play harness. We have the Wi-Fi antenna, the USB AV harness, the video out cable. In addition, you also have the option for ordering a front camera kit as well as a rear camera kit. And in today's video, you're going to learn how to install the whole kit with the exception of the front camera and the rear camera. That's another video for another day. And here are the recommended tools that you're going to need. Be sure to pick up one of our BimmerTech trim removal kits as it prevents from marring up your surfaces. First thing I want you guys to do is we're going to pop open the trunk to start. Something to remember is whenever you're working on any electrical components, it's important to remove the negative terminal off your battery. This is where you'll grab your 10mm deep socket. If you don't have one, you can use an adjustable crescent wrench or an open-ended box end wrench. Once the terminal is loosened, simply use your hands to wiggle the terminal free. Just tuck the terminal out of the way in the meantime. Now we'll be moving on to the interior. Grabbing a trim removal tool, we're going to start by removing this trim piece right here. On this F10, I find it a little easier if you open up the glove box and start prying out from underneath here. Just carefully slide it in between the pieces and pry forward. You'll hear some pops, and that's completely normal. Once you've carefully worked your way over towards the driver's side, you should be able to use your hands, pull it out, and we'll get started on disconnecting some of these wires. Starting on the left side with the engine start button, it helps if you use a pry tool to press down on the clip to release it. Next, we'll turn the vent upside down to get to the next connections. These are the connections for the door locks, the caution lights, and the temperature control. With your hands, you simply have to squeeze and pull. Moving on to this next connector, we're going to push the clip in and pull it out. With the connections removed, now we can set this piece aside for later. Next on the agenda, we're going to start removing the T20 Torx screws for this control panel. Grab your T20 Torx bit, and if you're using a drill, be sure to set your brake setting to a low impact. Once the screws are removed, you're going to give it some support with both hands, pull it towards you, allowing the clips to snap free. There are a total of 4, 2 up high and 2 down low. I recommend reaching back behind the control panel as low as possible to free out the lower ones. With this free, we're going to remove the blue and black connectors. This connector has a lock that you need to free by pushing in the tab right in front of it before you can slide it loose. Slide it down, freeing the connector, and you're good to go. Do the same with the black connector as well. Pushing the lock tab, and then moving the slider to unlock the connector. Let's go ahead and place the control panel aside somewhere safe. Then, let's grab a cloth and place it down to protect our interior. Moving on to the head unit, we have 4 T20 screws that have to be removed as well. Now let's pull out this head unit, placing it face down on the cloth. You'll see on the back of the head unit, there is a clip here holding in the harness. Simply pull out the harness from the clip. Getting a closer look at the back of the head unit, there's a quad lock for the harness that we want to take out. There's a clip like this one here on both sides that you need to press in before it loosens. It was a tight squeeze for my thumb, so I'm using the pry tool to push in one side while I use my other fingers for the other side. Once it's loose, slide the lock down and pull out the connector. With the OEM harness disconnected, we're going to lay the head unit aside over here. With this specific chassis style, there are 2 green fiber optic cables that we need to free out from the OEM harness to connect to the BimmerTech harness. To start, just remove any cable wrapping that's there, keeping in mind you're going to have to put it back. Pull out the green fiber wire, and then wrap the other cables back up. With that done, now I'm going to show you how to loosen the clip to release the fiber optic cables. Using a tiny screwdriver or a precision pick tool like this one, carefully pry up on the locking clip and then pull out the fiber optic cable. You want to be careful because in some instances you can snap the clip. Piece of cake. Now let's grab the BimmerTech wiring harness jumper and connect the fiber optic cables, keeping in mind the correct side that plugs into the head unit. These fiber optic cables will plug into the exact same position that they were in the OEM harness. Making sure the orientation is correct, just push it into the harness and you'll hear a little click. Now let's move along to connecting the BimmerTech harness to the OEM harness. The quad lock needs to be unlocked first before you can push it into place. Once that's set, make sure the pins are matching correctly and then lock it in. Next, we're going to remove the display so we can detach the display cable to connect to the MMI Prime interface. These 2 screws are also T20 Torx screws. To remove the screen, simply grab the lower portion and pull it towards you. Flip it upside down. With your finger, press the clip in and grab a pry tool to wiggle it out. There's a wire clip you'll have to remove. You can use a pry tool to do that as well. There's a secondary wire clip just behind that you have to pry forward. With the cable free, now we're going to pull it down to give it enough slack to connect to the MMI Prime interface. Grab your interface and take note of the dip switch settings on the back of the unit. In this case, switches 1 through 3 need to be down. On the BimmerTech harness that we just connected, there's a jumper coming off with a clip that needs to face up to connect to the power port on the interface. Press it in and let it snap. Next, grab your USB AV harness, and we're going to plug that in now. Make sure the clip is facing up, and push it in. Next, we'll plug in the LCD display cable that we removed from the display earlier. The interface is clearly marked LCD in. Push it in and let it snap. Then grab the LCD out jumper that we have from BimmerTech, and we're going to plug that in now. Looking at both connectors, we'll be plugging in this one. Next, let's run the other end of the display cable up to where the monitor will plug in. Now let's plug in the monitor. Once positioned correctly, just push it in. Correctly positioning in the monitor, we'll put the 2 screws back. With the monitor secured in place, let's run the USB cable through this little hole here. Make a mental note of what space you have because you're going to have to put the head unit back in place. Now this section here is going to get a little interesting. We're going to slide the interface up through this section before we connect the antenna and hide the box. Pretty easy. Be sure to pull up any excess wire slack that you have available. Then we'll grab the head unit and put it back on top of the cloth. Then we're going to do a dry fit with the head unit, pushing it back into place, tucking away any excess cable back in the empty space behind. It seems to fit pretty well, so let's get the screws and secure it in place. With that done, let's grab the antenna that came in the BimmerTech kit and plug it into the interface. It's a twist lock connector, so you simply have to push it in and spin the lock. Next, we're going to attempt to hide the box in this empty cavity to the right. As not to put any unneeded pressure onto the cables, I'm going to remove the screen prior to hiding it in place. Also, upon removing the screen, I saw an excellent place to stick the antenna. First things first, let's hide the interface into this cavity. I'm making sure as I slide the box in place that none of the cables are getting bound up or pinched. With it tucked away carefully, let's grab the antenna, remove the 3M plastic so we can stick it onto a proper spot. Here's a great spot behind the screen. Press firmly, and then let's move on to dressing up the excess cable. In this case, I have some Velcro to tuck it away neatly. I found the spot where I hid the interface is a great spot to also hide any excess cable. Let's grab our screen and put it back. Once the screen is secured, we're going to make sure that there's no loose cables in the way of the air vents, or else the trim piece will not go on properly. Next, I'll show you a great spot where to tuck in the USB cable. There's enough room between the trim where you can tuck the cable in and push it into place so that it's secure enough to plug in and unplug any devices. With that done, let's go ahead and put the control panel back in. Just reconnect the blue and black cables, making sure the locks are pulled back first. To reattach the control panel, simply slide it in place and push firmly. Then grab the 2 T20 Torx screws and put those in. Let's go ahead and reattach the air vent panel. Start by connecting the black cable, then the white, reattach the wire dressing clip, flip it around, and then finally, the ignition switch cable. Once all the cables are connected, then we're going to push the panel back into place, making sure there's no pinched cables, firmly pressing in, working our way over to the passenger side. The interior installation is complete. Let's go ahead and reconnect our battery terminal. Something to remember, whenever you order a MMI Prime from us, you'll be receiving a PDF instruction specific to the VIN number you provide when you purchase. Now let's go ahead and turn on our vehicle. To enter the MMI menu, on the iDrive controller, just press and hold the menu button. Let's connect an iOS device. Grab a USB cable, plug it in, follow the prompts, enable wireless CarPlay, and now you're all set to go. For a deep dive how-to connection video, check out the links in the description. The video will teach you how to connect your Android devices, iOS devices, and also play movies off a USB stick. Here's some sounds of the M5 for those who stuck around to the end. Once again, guys, my name is Chaz. Thanks for sticking around and watching this video. If you happen to have any questions, let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to see the latest videos that we got here at the shop. See you next time.